The friend zone, two words that make most men cringe, is a situation where you find yourself yearning for more than friendship, yet she only sees you as a safe, familiar presence in her life. You like her, you want her, but instead of feeling the spark of attraction, she treats you as nothing more than a reliable friend, a confidant to lean on in moments of distress and uncertainty. The real sting of the friend zone lies not just in unreciprocated desire, but in the painful awareness that she is fully aware of your deeper feelings, while she continues to surround herself with other men who may not appreciate her in the same thoughtful, considerate way that you do. In many cases, most men who find themselves stuck in this limbo fall into one of two camps. They either remain in the hope that someday, somehow, her view of you will shift and she will finally see you as more than a friend, or they retreat, bitter and disillusioned, convinced that rejection is their inevitable fate. Both approaches, however, miss a crucial truth. The friend zone is not a life sentence but rather a test, a challenge that, when met with the right mindset and strategies, can be flipped on its head, transforming you from a background presence into someone she finds irresistible and essential. One of the first steps in overturning this dynamic is to stop being her default emotional support system. It's easy to slip into the role of the go-to guy, the one who is always there to listen when she vents about her day or to provide solace when things don't go her way. Over time, this role can become a double-edged sword. While offering genuine empathy and support is important in any relationship, there is a dangerous side effect when you become the person she turns to every time she feels low. Every time you pick up the phone to listen to her endless stories of disappointment, every time you offer reassurances that seem to put a bandage on her emotional wounds, you inadvertently cement your position as a fixture in her life, a comforting, predictable presence rather than someone who sparks excitement and desire. When she knows that you will always be there, without question or hesitation, the uncertainty that is essential for attraction begins to vanish. Attraction thrives on unpredictability, on the delicate tension between availability and absence. And once that balance tips too far into reliability, it becomes a recipe for dependency rather than desire.
Consider the moment when she calls you, not with the intention of inviting you into her world of playful banter or flirtatious teasing, but merely to unload the weight of her problems. In that instant, you are not being seen as a potential partner who could ignite passion. Instead, you become her personal therapist, the one who can always be counted on for comfort. While it may feel rewarding to be needed, over time, this consistent role as her emotional crutch does nothing to elevate your value in her eyes. Instead, it reinforces a dynamic where she can take your compassion for granted, never having to question whether your presence might also be something thrilling or challenging. The remedy is simple yet counterintuitive. Pull back. Instead of rushing to pick up the phone or rushing to offer a shoulder to cry on, allow yourself to create a healthy distance. This isn't about abandoning her in her time of need or being insensitive. Rather, it's about preserving your own value by not making yourself too accessible. When you start to reserve your energy and attention, she may initially be taken aback by your changed behavior, but over time, that very absence will plant the seeds of desire in her mind. Creating emotional distance is a subtle art that can shift the entire dynamic between the two of you. It is not about playing games or manipulating her emotions in a cruel, calculated way. It's about establishing boundaries that affirm your own worth. When you cease to be the person who is perpetually on standby, you signal that you have a life beyond her immediate needs, a life filled with your own goals, interests, and pursuits. This shift forces her to reevaluate your relationship. Instead of assuming that you are always available, she starts to notice the moments when you are not around, the gaps in your attention that gradually become more pronounced. And in those gaps, her mind begins to wonder, what is it about you that makes your presence so valuable? The absence creates a vacuum that can only be filled by rethinking her own feelings toward you. It sparks a subtle jealousy, not the toxic, controlling kind, but a healthy, natural form of jealousy that makes her question why she isn't the center of your universe anymore. This newfound sense of mystery and scarcity can be incredibly powerful. Men who are always on call rarely evoke any sense of urgency or intrigue. When you stop responding immediately to every text, when you decline every invitation with a polite but firm no, you start to communicate without words that your time is valuable. Over time, she begins to see you not as an endless reservoir of support, but as someone with a rich and fulfilling life of his own, someone whose attention is a rare commodity worth fighting for. It might seem like a small change, but the impact is profound. When she sees you engaging with other women, or when she notices that your evenings are filled with social engagements and personal achievements, her perception of you transforms. Instead of being the man who is always there to listen, you become a man who is in demand, a man whose presence is coveted rather than assumed. It is important to understand that shifting the dynamics in this way does not mean you should become emotionally distant or indifferent in a way that suggests you don't care at all. On the contrary, genuine care is still the foundation of any meaningful relationship. The key is to strike a balance between showing that you are supportive and showing that you have your own life. When you create this balance, you begin to shift the power dynamic. Instead of constantly seeking her validation, you start to stand on your own, confidently owning your opinions, your tastes, and your standards. Rather than nodding along to every comment she makes or laughing a little too hard at her jokes in an effort to be liked, allow yourself to have moments of honest disagreement or playful banter. When you do this, you show her that you are not just a mirror reflecting her own thoughts, but a distinct, interesting individual with your own perspective on the world. This subtle shift in behavior can make a world of difference because it plants the seed of challenge in her mind, an idea that she now has to work a little harder to earn your approval, rather than expecting it to be handed to her automatically. In the midst of this transformation, it's also crucial to master the art of indifference. Nothing stokes the fires of attraction quite like a sense of mystery and self-assuredness. When you suddenly start to withdraw some of the constant attention you once freely offered, she is forced to confront the possibility that she might lose you. This sense of scarcity makes you seem all the more desirable. It isn't about being cold or unresponsive. It's about cultivating a quiet confidence that says, I am worth more than I am being given credit for. When you allow a bit of silence to enter your interactions, it creates a space where she must question her own feelings. Suddenly, the question arises in her mind. Why hasn't he messaged me back yet? Has something changed? Is he perhaps interested in someone else? Even if these thoughts come in fleeting moments, they accumulate over time, building a subtle tension that can be far more compelling than any overt demonstration of affection. The power of silence should not be underestimated. In a world where immediate responses are the norm, a delayed reply can carry the weight of 1,000 words. When you stop being perpetually available, when you choose not to pick up the phone immediately or respond to every message, you send a clear message that your time and energy are valuable commodities. This scarcity forces her to pause and reflect on just how much your presence has meant to her in the past. It prompts her to consider what she might be missing out on, and in doing so, it begins to rekindle a desire for you that she may have taken for granted. Of course, this approach requires patience and consistency. It isn't a magic trick that works overnight, but rather a gradual process of reshaping the way she perceives you. Over time, as she begins to notice that you are no longer the ever-present figure in her daily life, her interest in you may start to blossom in unexpected ways. Another significant aspect of breaking free from the friend zone is learning to get comfortable with walking away. Many men fear that if they pull back too much, she might forget about them entirely, leaving them with nothing but regret. However, neediness is perhaps the most unattractive quality a man can project. If she knows that you are willing to walk away, that you refuse to be her backup plan or her safety net, then she may finally see you in a new light, as someone who truly values himself. The idea is not to use walking away as a manipulative tactic, but rather as a demonstration of self-respect and personal integrity. When you signal that you are no longer willing to compromise your own happiness by remaining in a one-sided relationship, you force her to confront the possibility that she might lose something truly valuable. In that moment of potential loss, she may begin to question her own behavior and the role you play in her life. Suddenly, the casual neglect of your attention becomes a glaring absence, one that she cannot help but notice, and, eventually, one that she will regret. This process of stepping back and reasserting your own worth goes hand in hand with the idea of upgrading yourself, of becoming the best version of who you are. If you have found yourself friend-zoned, it is not a reflection of your inherent value, but rather a sign that you have been perceived as too comfortable, too accessible, too safe. The remedy is to embark on a journey of self-improvement that goes far beyond superficial changes. Hit the gym not just to build muscle, but to cultivate discipline and confidence. Update your wardrobe and refine your style so that you feel as good about yourself as you want others to see you. Invest time in hobbies and interests that make your life richer and more fulfilling. When you start dating other women, or even just socializing with a diverse group of people, you begin to create an image of yourself as a man who is not only in demand, but also continuously evolving. This isn't about faking confidence or playing a part. It's about genuinely discovering and embracing the aspects of yourself that make you unique and desirable. When she sees you thriving, looking better, feeling better, and generally being wanted by other women, it sends a powerful message that you are not someone who can be easily overlooked. In that light, you transition from being the background fixture in her life to being the one who might just have made her overlook a true gem. As you continue to work on yourself, you may find that the entire dynamic shifts subtly but significantly. When you are busy pursuing your own goals and living a life full of passion and purpose, you no longer have the time or energy to be available at a moment's notice for her every whim. This newfound independence forces her to acknowledge that your time is precious, a resource that cannot be wasted on unappreciated, one-sided attention. Gradually, she begins to see that the qualities that once made you so indispensable, your empathy, your willingness to listen, your unwavering support, are now complemented by a newfound aura of mystery and self-assurance. Instead of taking you for granted, she starts to recognize that you have become someone worth chasing, someone who brings not just comfort, but also excitement and challenge into her life. It is in this space of redefined boundaries and renewed self-worth that the real transformation begins to occur. In the end, the friend zone is less about the other person's shortcomings and more about your own ability to position yourself as a high-value individual. Women do not typically friend zone men because they are not good enough. Rather, they do so because the man in question has, often unintentionally, given up the very qualities that ignite desire, mystery, challenge, and a sense of unpredictable allure. By learning to balance genuine care with a healthy dose of indifference, by creating space and establishing clear boundaries, you set the stage for a complete reimagining of the relationship. This transformation is not an overnight miracle. It is a gradual process that requires introspection, self-improvement, and, most importantly, the willingness to embrace a little uncertainty. As you begin to prioritize your own happiness and personal growth, you will not only become more attractive in her eyes, but also more content in your own life. There will be moments along this journey when you feel the pull to revert to old habits, the urge to be there for her at every moment, the temptation to respond immediately to every text, the fear that by stepping back you might lose her altogether. It is in these moments that you must remind yourself of the value of self-respect and the importance of maintaining healthy boundaries. True attraction is not forged in the fires of constant availability, but in the cool, calculated space where desire can take root and flourish. When you allow her the opportunity to miss you, to wonder what it is like when you are not around, you create a dynamic that is both challenging and deeply alluring. Her eventual realization that she has taken your unwavering presence for granted can be the catalyst for a complete reversal of roles, a situation where she begins to pursue you, yearning for the spark that once seemed lost. Ultimately, reclaiming your value in the friend zone is about understanding that you are not defined by the label of friend, but by the unique qualities that make you an exceptional partner. By stepping back, asserting your independence, and continually working on becoming the best version of yourself, you not only break free from the confines of the friend zone, but also open up a world of possibilities where genuine attraction can blossom. It is a journey of transformation that starts with small, deliberate changes. Each step a reaffirmation of your worth. Each moment of silence a testament to the power of scarcity in creating desire. In learning to balance your natural compassion with a newfound sense of mystery and self-assuredness, you begin to challenge the very foundation of the friend zone, turning it into a proving ground where true value is recognized and appreciated. In time, the woman who once saw you merely as a comforting presence may start to see you in an entirely new light. She might catch herself wondering about the man who has suddenly become less accessible, the man whose life is rich with ambition, intrigue, and undeniable self-respect. As she witnesses your transformation, her perception shifts from one of familiarity to one of intrigue, a realization that you are not just the guy who listens to her problems, but the man who embodies strength, independence, and passion. This shift can be both subtle and profound, emerging slowly as the natural consequence of a relationship that has evolved beyond mere friendship into something far more complex and compelling. There will be moments when you feel a pang of guilt for having once been so available, moments when you recall the times you spent consoling her and wonder if you should have stayed in that role. But every time you choose to prioritize your own goals, every time you let the silence speak louder than constant chatter, you affirm your belief in your own worth. You begin to understand that a healthy relationship, whether platonic or romantic, thrives on balance. It is built on the mutual recognition that both individuals have lives filled with their own dreams and aspirations. By reclaiming your time and energy, you allow yourself the opportunity not only to grow as an individual, but also to become someone who is truly irreplaceable.